Welcome to episode 6 of the Golden Hour, the Horizon League's new content platform. We're so glad you joined us here this week. Go back where you get all your podcasts and listen to our first 5 episodes, including last week's where we took our first installment of On the Horizon Weekly with Greg Rakestraw and tossed it on here on the Golden Hour. You get your cup of tea on Horizon League basketball to get things started, as we are now in week 2 of Horizon League Hoops. So this is the Golden Hour. Our guest this week is Jason Burchard, co-founder of RootNote, a social media analytics firm that has moved to Indianapolis and is doing great things in the space, not only for the Horizon League, but many brands across the sports business landscape. So enjoy this conversation with Jason Burchard of RootNote. Welcome back to episode 6 of the Golden Hour. So glad to have you with us. And we are fortunate to have a great friend to the Horizon League, the co-founder, CEO of RootNote, Jason Burchard is with us. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here and good to be back in these offices again.
Yeah, well, we like to talk about Golden Hour experiences, major experiences in the Horizon League, making major impact, and your company is certainly doing that here in Indianapolis. Can you give us just a Cliff Notes version of what RootNote is?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So RootNote helps sports media and entertainment companies kind of track all of the data and content that they're creating across both their owned and operated channels. So basically anything they're putting out, as well as their athletes, their influencers, anybody that they're working that's kind of creating content to help them build their brands. We then take that and we work with the content teams, the partnerships teams to basically understand what's working where, and then ultimately go out and help communicate that to internal teams, external teams, brands, partners, et cetera. So we work with professional sports teams, leagues, conferences, universities, athletes directly through their agents. It's a pretty exciting space to be in. We're even starting to work with some startups who are building their brands around digital content, working with influencers. So it's a very exciting world, and obviously in the college space, things are changing so quickly, as we all know. So it's a fun place to be, and Indy is at the heart of all of it. So,
well, good segue. You mentioned Indy. How did you come to find your spot here in Indianapolis, and why Indianapolis?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sean. So, funny enough, I grew up in Texas, lived in Dallas, lived in London, Austin, kind of abroad. I hadn't spent much time in the Midwest, but we were invited to participate in this TechStars program. For those of you who aren't familiar, TechStars is an accelerator program. Basically, they provide investment capital and help you reach out to different partners, help you build your business early on. And they have a TechStars sports program here that's run for the last few years. Great group of guys who are in charge of that, but great group of partners involved as well. Obviously, there's a great sports ecosystem here in Indiana, but also more broadly just in Indianapolis in general. So we did the program, got connected to a lot of the LPs or limited partners of that program, which include the Pacers, the Colts, IMS, and a bunch of other great partners. So we started getting to know the ecosystem here through Sports Tech HQ, who are also closely involved, and that's where I met Julie and you. And so long story short, we came here not really knowing what to expect, and it's kind of just been a whirlwind of the last year and a half building and growing the business here. Very excited to be here. It's a great place. You asked why Indy. I think of all of the kind of markets and places, it's a great place, very focused on building kind of what you'd call like the sports tech ecosystem, which obviously with a lot of innovation going on in kind of the hardware side and racing and motorsports. It's a sports nexus here, obviously, with the NCAA, Horizon League. A lot of the major partners are here. But they're also bringing in a ton of events here. You've got, wrestling is coming here in February. You had the All-Star game here last February. You had the Olympics, the swimming trial. So it's just, it seems to keep coming up in conversation. So if you're a company growing and building, and you want to meet people, it ends up being a pretty great place to meet people. So,
yeah, well, you mentioned it. I mean, your business and so many others are contributing to this hope and goal and strategy around making Indianapolis and Indiana the global epicenter of sports. with our 2050 vision with the Indiana Sports Corp. And so thank you for that. All right, so let's get into, I want to go back to your career and maybe, how to be an entrepreneur in some level when we kind of close things out. But I want to talk about your work with the Horizon League. We've partnered up with you, our content team, and Bridget are looking at a bunch of data. We're looking at it from a couple different standpoints, right? How can we grow engagement? How do we build our Horizon League brand? But also corporate sales. How can we value our posts and what they might be worth to a potential sponsor as we go out and try to create new revenue? Perhaps you can share some of the findings, either the Horizon League specifically or just in general, how those strategies can be helped by RootNote.
Yeah, great question, Sean. And I think the first part of it is, it all goes back to creating the content. Obviously, launching this show in general is a huge opportunity. What we're super excited about, and what I think Horizon League is doing particularly well, is thinking about all of the different kind of digital content series that you all are creating, thinking about the digital assets that you have, thinking about how you can kind of break those out and partner with other organizations who are looking to reach out to your audience with all of the member schools and organizations, largely centered in the Midwest. You have a really interesting local audience with an ability to reach out to a wide part of the country here. So it's exciting. I think on the content strategy, what's really interesting is just how much content you all are creating. I don't think people understand just the volume of content that's being created, not only across you, but also the member schools. And we were kind of talking before this. I just did a little walk through you all's profile this morning and found that, one of the member schools had a post go viral, 2.1 million views, 200-something thousand likes. And we saw that they were also the fastest growing account. So you can see a very kind of cause and effect of being there in the moment, capturing that content, creating it, and then distributing it to an audience. Obviously, the challenge is, okay, after you've gotten that out there, then how do you kind of continue to engage, as you mentioned, right? And it's through things like this. It's through constant, just good quality content. I watched, obviously the interview between Julie and Charlie a couple of weeks ago, and it's just great content. Thinking about kind of what's next with the NCAA and everything that's going on there. So, it's kind of going back to the opportunities, especially for the Horizon League and other leagues and some of our other partners. It's how do we continue to create this high quality content and then share that content and the value of that, right? When you're looking at the impressions, the views that it's generating, and then communicating that to brands and sponsors and partners, because ultimately they have to be able to understand how, this partnership is going to drive value for them, what the ROI is going to be. And at least with content, one of the things that a lot of people want to look at is, impressions, how many people are actually seeing this, because earned media value is a thing that we often talk about frequently. It's, what is the value of this content that's being created from a views perspective? Because advertising is not cheap. And if you have a different way to kind of reach people, obviously content being a great mechanism, you can kind of reach that targeted audience. And the great thing about Horizon League, too, is obviously you have a niche market where you can kind of really create engaged, passionate audiences that are going to be following, not just the content of the league, but of the member schools and also the players. So it's a good opportunity for brands that are interested in those types of relationships to partner up.
I appreciate that insight. The example you talked about was an Oakland men's soccer situation, I believe, and it was really just a highlight. But maybe you could take a little step behind the curtain. And was it the timing? Was it the way they posted? You mentioned maybe collaborating with us, which was beneficial to our account. What are some of the mechanical things that you see as you look at the back end data that others could replicate?
Yeah, so great question. And the first thing that you'd mentioned that's critical, one is timing and being there, actually having somebody on the field in the right spot to capture the content, because you never know when that moment's going to happen. The good news is that it's getting easier and less expensive to capture content, right? There are a lot of tools. I don't know if that was shot on an iPhone or if it was, an actual camera setup, but somebody was there to capture the moment. Nobody knew that moment was going to go viral. Nobody knew it was going to happen, but they were there, right time, right place, and it did. The second thing that went really well is a collaboration. So basically, there's multiple ways to share content across social platforms, and whenever you collaborate, you basically bring in another brand or partner. Great news about this is, as I mentioned, kind of when we were talking before, because they collabed or included Horizon League in the post. We saw a lot of growth in the Horizon League over the past month as well for a number of reasons. There's one metric in particular that I'd encourage people to look at. It's called, so it's going to be like follows after engagement, and this is specifically unique to an Instagram metric, and you actually have to dig into the data, which is why we exist in the first place, right? To kind of understand, but attribution, it's like, okay, who's jumping on and actually following after this post? And then ultimately, ideally collabing with the student athletes as well. What we do with a lot of our university partners is kind of, help them understand and show the value of, how their brand is effectively growing the brands of these athletes. Just like, tagging the Horizon League really benefits a lot of these member schools too. It's kind of, rising tide, floats all ships type metaphor. So, in summary, I'd say, one, make sure you're there. You've got to be present to win. Two, make sure that you're doing the right types of sharing collaborations because it can really amplify the reach. And then three, once you've done that, make sure you're communicating that to partners and showing them just kind of how valuable these moments can be.
All right, so we talked about the sponsors and value a little bit, but can you share a little bit more about how RootNote can make it digestible to, either sharing a deck to a prospective partner that, hey, these channels, these type of posts are worth your dollars to support our athletes?
Yeah, another great question. So one of the challenging things about data and platforms in general is that there's so much of it, right? And you have to be able to quickly kind of synthesize and share with a partner, okay, what is the top performing content? What is the real-time value of it? What we find challenging for a lot of our partners is you're tracking data in a spreadsheet, and then you've got to go to maybe Canva or PowerPoint or some type of deck. And the second you make that pitch, it's already out of date because things move so fast in this space. And being able to kind of articulate, how you're growing, in a dynamic way is really important for teams, especially whenever they want to not only kind of go out and, find the right partner in the first place, but then also communicate how that content's doing to the partner after the fact. Everyone thinks about, the challenge of landing the deal, but, after you've gotten that partnership, it's about retention. It's about communication. It's about keeping them up to date. How is the content performing over time? So that's a really exciting area that we've been dealing a lot with our customers, is kind of helping communicate the value, not only before the pitch, but also kind of after the pitch. And, because once again, you're doing complex deals, right? You've got content that's going out in podcasts, you've got newsletters, you've got all of your social channels, you have owned and operated channels. There's a lot that goes into these deals, and we just want to make sure that it's easy, in a digital one page to show that person who has about 30 seconds of time to figure out whether or not this is working, if it is or not. So,
well, it's only going to be more critical to create revenue and find new partners, right, to continue to do that. So, all right, I'm going to ask you to put on maybe your scout or coaching cap for a second. Okay. You have a cap on, so I'm going to look at it. That is your scout and coaching cap.
Fair enough.
Give us a analysis of just social media as it is right now, generally.
Yeah.
What's trending up? What's trending down? Is there a new channel out there?
Yeah.
Blue Sky that is gaining traction? Is that a real traction? Just curious your thoughts generally on that.
Yeah, it's funny because, it's over a decade old, this concept of social media, but it's still the Wild West. Blue Sky is growing like crazy. I think they added another 25 million users the past couple of weeks. X is just X. I'll leave it at that. Threads is really interesting. We're seeing a lot of our partners really kind of lean into Threads right now. as a kind of distribution platforms. Threads, for those who aren't familiar, is it's owned by Meta. It was kind of an offshoot of Instagram. It's more of a kind of Twitter-like experience. TikTok, don't even get me started on that. I think the most important thing to remember there is just that diversification is critical. If you build an audience that you don't own on one platform and that platform doesn't ceases to exist, then you don't own that or you don't have that audience anymore.
Yeah.
So I'd say the general theme is YouTube Shorts are great, another great form, short form content. But yeah, as far as the platforms that we're kind of most bullish on right now, Blue Sky is definitely at the top, just because they're trying to create the experience that Twitter was whenever it was founded, and obviously Dorsey's behind that. So, but yeah, I'd say in general, just you've got to be everywhere at once, and focus on social as top of funnel, and then after you've kind of and continue to focus on it as top of funnel, but make sure you're also getting those email addresses. I heard the merch plug on one of the podcasts. Yeah. Giving your fans and content consumers a way to continue to engage. So
good nugget. Horizonlink.com.
There we go.
/merch. Continuing on the coaching front, I appreciate that insight. All right, so not all of our 4,000 plus student athletes in the Horizon League want to quote unquote build their brand, right? It's not something that everybody's interested in. But let's say for those who are, what are some of the data or analytic elements that you're seeing that you might share with an athlete who has a really nice following on social media and wants to partner with brands to increase their brand, but also maybe make a few bucks? What are some of the key things you see that you could recommend to them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we see most consistently from student athletes, even who are interested, and also like just because you're a student athlete doesn't mean you have to be interested in creating content. Absolutely 100% true. If you are, however, creating consistent content and choosing something that you're genuinely interested in to create content about is really important, because brands and partners want to basically see that you are going to continue to kind of engage and nurture the audience and grow, and that's the key to growth. It's consistent content. Which is hard to do. I mean, it's hard to do when you're a student, an athlete, and then also being asked to be a content creator. So it has to be something that you're genuinely passionate about doing. The good news is, though, I think if you look at a lot of kind of surveys that, well, one, the number of positions and jobs that are opening up for content creators is growing exponentially. Universities are even launching full-on programs about how to be a content creator. So even if you don't see yourself becoming a brand personally, it's a great skill set to at least learn about and how to do, because it's becoming more and more relevant in kind of just the work life with the number of kind of positions that are opening up there. So, but getting back to what I would recommend doing, it's one, find a topic that you can easily kind of create content around that you're passionate about. Start creating content. And start small. You don't have to land. I promise you, your first brand deal is not going to be a $20,000 deal. But start small and start building. Start showing what it looks like to create content for brands. Once you've done that, I recommend putting together some type of media kit. I know a company that can help you do that, to kind of present to these brands and really tell your story, right? Because what brands want to is they want niche creators who have something to say. And who are going to have an engaging audience. You don't have to have 20,000 followers to go out and get your first brand deal. You just have to have an audience who's interested in what you're doing. So that would be my recommendation if you're interested in kind of starting to build your brand around content. And also just always, if you do go down this route and you do start getting bigger deals and contracts, read the fine print or have somebody help you do it. And just make sure you follow through on what you've been asked to do and what you're promising that you will deliver, because that's really important as well.
Great insights. Thanks, Jason. Similar in that not only is your company kind of in that space that you just described, but just entrepreneurs in general, business students. Any top-level advice for those folks? And, can you help? If one of our athletes was say, that guy seems like he knows what he's doing, I might want to connect with him on LinkedIn. Any advice or ways to share those? insights?
Yeah, definitely, Sean. First of all, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just I think it's just Jason Burchard. If you look me up, I will promise I'll connect with you and send me a message and we can chat. But yeah, building a business is really hard. Being an athlete is really hard. It's not about the headlines. It's about the 40, 50, 60 hours a week that you're putting into it behind the scenes, the training, the brand building, the hard work. So if you are passionate about building something or being an entrepreneur, I would say make sure you do it around something that you're really excited about, that you are passionate about, because you're going to need that kind of spark to keep you excited when things are hard. And it's that much more rewarding whenever you have the successes. So I'd say the second thing is like the best way to become an entrepreneur is just to start doing it. As many programs as there are that are out there that will teach you how to be an entrepreneur, the only way to do it is to actually just start doing it. So, and the great news about that too is it keeps getting easier and easier to build something. You can start, if you're interested in tech, you can start with some low or no code platforms just to test out your solution to see if there's a market for it. It's really easy to just test something and iterate quickly now. So I would say just don't let anything hold you back. And then if you can find people to join you on the journey, it's a lot better to have, I can't speak because I've never founded a company by myself, but I can say it's a huge benefit to have co-founders and people that can kind of, be there for the wins and also kind of help you through the losses.
Very good. Very good. Well, we appreciate that insight as well. I know we have all sorts of stakeholders, friends of the league who would appreciate those type of insights. Okay. We're going to end it on a start, bench, and cut question. Okay. You got to start one of these, bench one, or cut one.
Okay.
This is hard for a guy like yourself. Okay.
Okay.
So Twitter X,
Okay.
LinkedIn, or Instagram. All right. Start, bench, and cut those 3 social media platforms.
Interesting.
And maybe a why if you're going to cut one.
Okay. So we'll start with cut. We're gonna cut X or Twitter. The reason being that a lot of brands, a lot of audiences have left in the past year, 2 years. So depending on who you're trying to reach, they may not be there. So it's important to know where your audience is. They could be there. Their sports Twitter is still a big thing, very much so. But just from kind of the brand partner creator world, I would say it's become a little bit less relevant. Bench, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say bench. Man, this is hard. I'm gonna say bench Instagram with the caveat that you should still be using it. I'm gonna say start LinkedIn just because there's a big opportunity there. There's a big opportunity on LinkedIn to keep kind of growing your brand, and it's become a very useful tool. I think especially for startup companies, and brands are continuing to get more and more engaged on LinkedIn. So once again, if you're thinking about where is your audience, you want to make sure and be present where they are. I'm saying this is a really unfair question.
I know. That's why I asked it. Isn't that fun?
It's terrible, Sean. I hate this question. But
wait till my next question.
Oh God, yeah. Bench with the caveat that you should definitely keep doing it.
Okay.
And start LinkedIn if you're not.
All right. So same question. All right. But TikTok, Blue Sky, or Facebook?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm only asking you this because I want your reasons why or why not. And I knew you'd probably say you should start, depending on your audiences, you want to be at all of them. But just curious, kind of from a trend standpoint almost.
Yeah. So I think from a trending standpoint, start Blue Sky. It's really interesting just because people are going there. And it's definitely, with a lot of these platforms, kind of, I'd say like the early champions, the early evangelists are the ones that can benefit the most in some of the early stages. One of the reasons it's also really interesting is just it's kind of, unfettered. You can reach your audience at least right now.
And you guys have at Root Note started to.
We are definitely looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that we kind of generally we follow what our customers are using. So like right now, our most immediate next step is to get the Threads API connected, just because that's where. But going back, as far as cut goes, this is a weird one, and you can't actually really cut it because you literally have to have it. But
the meta standpoint,
Facebook, it's it's just I think they're trying to figure out how to be relevant. It just gets a little bit more and more complex, though. It's you no longer have to have a Facebook profile. Now you have to have a Facebook business page, and you have to actually be a professional Instagram creator. So once again, you have to have it. But as far as creating content they're trying to make it easier, I think, to do some like cross-posting collaborations. But that's probably going to be the cut. And then the bench, obviously, TikTok. There's still a lot of viral potential on it, but it could not be relevant for the U.S. In a couple of weeks, we'll see what kind of happens there.
All right, thanks for playing along on those. I knew you were going to be frustrated with me, but I know our audience will appreciate the way you broke it down. Okay, I know you said you are perhaps heading out of town for the holidays, but what has been your favorite thing to do in Indianapolis, one of our great major cities in the Horizon League, since you set up shop here with Root Note?
Yeah. The events here are insane. I went to the it's funny. I got an opportunity to go to the Taylor Swift concert here, and I'd never seen anything like that before. Like great music. I'm not a Swiftie, but
are you saying it's better than Horizon League basketball?
No.
Okay.
No, it's different.
Just want to make sure.
That's apples and oranges.
Okay. Good. That's a good answer.
But I am very excited for the tournament coming up here at the state fair.
Fairgrounds?
Corteva
Coliseum now.
Corteva Coliseum now. Yeah. I think that's going to be great. The Classic is coming up here this weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like it really, if you just look at the events calendar here, it's insane. Like there's never nothing to do.
You mentioned the Indy Classic, the Horizon League, proud partner of our friends at Indiana Sports Corp, and the Indy Classic. A couple basketball games over at Gamebridge this weekend. We'll leave it at that. How can folks who are consuming the Golden Hour find Root Note and connect with you? Yeah,
so you can find our website if you're curious on what we do. It's www.rootnote.co, so .co. You can reach out to me directly. I'll do this. My name or my email, it's jason@rootnote.co. So if you want to send me a direct message and just mention that you found us on the Golden Hour, I'll be more than happy to have a chat. And you can find us on all the socials. Our handle's going to be @rootnote.co. And we also put out some content ourselves. So if you're interested in kind of trending news or creators, things that are going, you can follow us on LinkedIn as well.
I definitely recommend Jason and Root Note on LinkedIn. Really good insights that you share. I love the stories and little, I will almost call them LinkedIn white papers on what's trending around social media. So thanks to Jason Burchard from Root Note for joining us on this week's edition of the Golden Hour.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah. That was our conversation with Jason Burchard of Root Note. Big thanks to Jason and his team over there for helping us at the Horizon League, and hopefully many of you make sure you connect with Jason as he recommended. That does it here for episode number 6 of the Golden Hour. We are in the midst of hoop season. We're getting winded up with Horizon League men's and women's basketball. Keep it locked into horizonleague.com for all the roundups, game notes, notebooks, all the information you need on Horizon League basketball season. On social media, all of our handles at Horizon League, hashtag HLMBB, hashtag HLWBB. You can keep it locked in there for all the information across all of our 11 institutions. Big games this weekend, so make sure you are following not only on ESPN+, but social media and our website, horizonleague.com. Of course, the holidays are approaching. Perhaps you need a last-second gift. horizonleague.com is the place for that. Click the merch tab up top. You could find your loved one a nice Horizon League item to gift. Okay, we'll see you next week on the Golden Hour. Be sure you're creating a major impact in whatever you're doing.